It's January 2022 and nobody talks about the EVA1 from Panasonic anymore, so I thought I'd do that because I really like this camera. I got this camera to replace my Ursa Mini Pro, which died on me in September 2021. Basically, I was told by Blackmagic support that there's nothing they'll do for the camera. I can't even pay them to fix it. And so that sort of turned me off on getting a new one. So I looked elsewhere. So the very first thing that you'll notice is I've got a base plate on it here. This is the Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pro base plate, VCT baseplate that I was using with that camera. And I wanted to use the EVA1 as a shoulder rig slash like tripod rig versus the handheld setup that the camera is sort of maybe initially designed for. Reason being, I have handheld cameras. I'm filming this on my S1, which is a great handheld cam with its IBIS and all that. I have a Pocket 6K, which isn't great handheld, but it is more oriented, I think, that way, or can be oriented that way. And so again, I wanted a camera to replace my Ursa Mini Pro in the way that I use that camera, so I got this one. So the Ursa Mini Pro base plate actually doesn't fit on the EVA very well. The mounting points, the tripod mounting points for the EVA are all the way in the front, and then like the tripod screws or the 1/4-20 screws for the base plate here are actually more towards the back. So I need a bridge plate in between to make that connection and put it in a good spot. So I actually am using the small rig top plate for the Ursa Mini Pro as that bridge plate. I just have it flipped upside down. And then I have like a 1/4-20 to 3/8 adapter somewhere in here to get those screws to line up in just the right spot. It's nice because it actually gives me a couple extra 1/4-20 and like 3/8 mounting points along both sides here, and you'll see how I actually use that coming up in a little bit. So just a couple like 6-inch carbon fiber rods out front for putting accessories, which again you'll see later. And yeah, that's about it for the bottom. Up top, you'll see I have a top plate. There's actually a fair amount of mounting points on the top of the EVA1, but they're all 1/4-20 and they all face upwards. And so what this top plate is, and it's from Pro-Aim, it's called the Pro-Aim Muffle, but Small Rig makes one basically exactly the same. I think Wooden Camera does, a bunch of manufacturers. But essentially, this thing adds a crap ton of 1/4-20 mounting points along the sides, the front, and the top, as well as some 3/8. Here's some, RA locating pin ones, and then here's the funky little rosette that the EVA1 uses as well. So that's the top plate. As far as the top handle goes, in lieu of using the stock Panasonic one that comes with the camera, which is fine. It's plastic, it has a couple cold shoes on it, and it has more of those rosettes throughout. I instead went for this one, which is the small rig Ursa Mini Pro top handle that goes with their like EVF kit. So what I like about this handle is it, again, gives me a ton more mounting points, 1/4-20s throughout, cold shoes throughout, gives me a rod clamp in the front, which is a much more sturdy like rod clamp than the little studs that come with the rosette adapters for the from Panasonic. And then it gives me an RA locating pin here in the back that I like to put like monitors and stuff on. And then you'll see I have a little extra thing here on the Panasonic monitor. Now, the design of the LCD is pretty cool in that it can articulate all sorts of different ways. But one of the things you'll find about this camera is that it has a pretty crappy LCD, at least in regards to like reflectiveness and brightness. And so if you're going to use this thing outside at all, or even if you're going to use it in like bright conditions, you need something to block off the incoming light from hitting this screen and reflecting back into your face, and you won't be able to see a single thing. So I have the Zacuto Z Finder for the EVA1. It's kind of an expensive accessory, but it's really worth it if you do any amount of shooting outside, like I said. And if you can pick it up used, it's definitely worth it. Picking it up new, it is pretty expensive. All you need to do to put on the loop is line up the sort of grooves and snap it into place. It's really rock solid. It's actually kind of hard to take that off, so I don't actually do that often, but I had it off so that you could see. It has a flip-up design, so you push this lever here, and then it flips up out of place, so you can actually view the screen you know, by itself. If you want to manipulate the touch screen or anything like that, it just flips out of place and then flips back down. So rotating the camera around, we can see what's going on the other side. So as you can see, I have an arm here, a small rig, extension arm, with a rosette for my hand grip, and I'm using the Blackmagic Ursa Mini hand grip. I find it to be a much more solid connection than the stock Panasonic one, which uses this like custom rosette mount, or bayonet mount rather. There have been like horror stories of the hand grip getting like locked into place because like a little pin breaks or something. And so I didn't feel like dealing with that, but like even without that like fear of that happening, it just doesn't feel very solid. This handle, or this hand grip, is made of metal, and the connection is just rock solid to this arm here. And so I'm not worried at all about supporting the full weight of the rig, you know, as I'm putting it on and off my shoulder using just this hand grip. So I have it upwards at the moment, and what's nice is that in this configuration, I can actually set this entire camera rig down on a table or on the ground, and it's just completely flat and level. You don't have like a hand grip downward like that would throw the whole thing off balance or whatever. And you might have noticed like just how easy it was for me to adjust the position of the hand grip, and that's because I have this Kondor Blue kind of a quick release rosette adapter for the hand grip. And so rather than needing to screw and unscrew this knob right here every time I want to make an adjustment, it's just the push of a lever like this and it goes up into place. So I can have it, you know, 2 notches down and then extend this out. I don't even know if that's in frame still, but you end up with a really comfortable position for holding the hand grip down at a lower spot. And then again, it's just as easy as a thumb screw and a push of a lever to get it back up into position. So the other thing that I have on this side of the camera is right here is that small rig top plate, which is now acting as a base plate for me. And connected to that, I have the small rig tear deck quick release, which I use with my Accsoon CineEye 2S Pro. So use this for sending the signal out for director's monitors or for live streaming use. Want to send it to a switcher or whatever. And it fits in just perfectly here on this side of the camera, just like this. So then you just screw it in and it's locked into place. You run the SDI out of here. I usually like loop it up over and then into the SDI port back here. So it's perfect. And it fits in nicely. I can actually put it in my bag just like this. A lot of times I just leave this unit on in case I need it. It's only, you know, a couple seconds away, but it also is, you know, obviously, you know, very quick to just unscrew that and remove it and set it aside. So that's pretty cool. I have a cold shoe up here for mounting wireless mic transmitter, you know, whenever needed. So then the very last thing that I consider to be part of like the core rig is this right here. This is the Core SWX Nano, which is a 98 watt hour battery specifically made for Panasonic cameras. It's about 1.5 of the, no, 2.5 of like the traditional Panasonic batteries that come with this camera. But the party trick that this one has is that it has a D-tap out, which I use for some accessories. So that's the core rig. I'm going to show you a couple of the ways that I customize it for different shooting scenarios. And yeah. So the first accessory I sometimes add is this, which is the Blackmagic Video Assist 5-inch. This allows me to record 10-bit Blackmagic RAW out of the SDI port of the EVA here at its full native sensor resolution, which is 5.7K. Records to just SD cards, or you can also record to an SSD out of the USB-C port on the bottom of this. And so what I typically do is, as I said earlier, there is like a 3/8 pin right here, 3/8 mount right here with RA locating pins. So I'll just put this thing on an arm, either facing operator side or the back. and it works nice. It can be independently powered using two Sony MPF batteries. You can also power it using a 12 volt, I think, in here. So that is that. You already saw how I use the CineEye 2S Pro. That has both an SDI or HDMI input, and so if I'm going to be using the Blackmagic through SDI for recording, then I'll use the HDMI input on the Accsoon. The other thing I like to do is I like to use the Tilta Nucleus Nano follow focus. Really small and compact. I know that the M is like more powerful and better in most ways, but for my little rig and the kinds of lenses I use, the Nano works fine for now. What's really nice is so that the motor just hooks up here, and to get a little bit of extra juice out of that motor, or into that motor rather, I use the D-tap cable that comes with the like enhanced kit of the Nano, and so the D-tap just goes into the back of the core SWX battery and then feeds into here through micro USB and gives this thing a little bit of extra juice for turning lenses. Now, that unit comes with the hand wheel here, which is super nice and fluid. And I like using it with the hand wheel when it's on a tripod. But if I'm going to be shooting mostly shoulder rig and handheld, I actually use the Nucleus M left hand grip with a rosette arm here. So this just fits really nicely onto here, just like this. And then, as I showed you earlier, this hand grip can come down and extend like that. So they're basically level. I don't even know if they're in frame, but they're basically level now. And so I can control the Nano motor using the M hand grip. Makes just smooth focus transitions super, super easy. And, one of the huge benefits of using the Nucleus system or another wireless follow focus is that it transfers, the mechanical movement of you turning a follow focus wheel into an electronic signal and then reinterpreting it into another mechanical movement of the motor. And what this lets you do is it remaps your focus throw to be as long as you want it to be. So like I have like a couple like photo lenses that are, like maybe 70-degree rotation for their focus throw, or even less, 45-degree focus throw, which is really difficult to manually focus. But when you use it with this system, it remaps that to like 300 degrees. And so you end up with capable of doing really smooth transitions when using this wireless system. So that's pretty cool. You'll see here I have the Nano quick release clamp. And that's because on occasion, I do actually like to, if I can get this thing locked in, on occasion, I actually do like to use this hand wheel instead of the hand grip. And so reason being, if I'm in a situation where I'm going to be going from tripod to shoulder, back and forth, I prefer whenever I'm on a tripod to use this hand wheel. It's awkward depending on the camera height. It's awkward to have your hand like kind of low on the camera, or like low to and to use just one finger when it's on a tripod. You've got your other hand on the pan arm. So when I'm going back and forth, I prefer to actually use this hand wheel. It just makes it easier. And just in that case, the motor will pair up with whichever controller you turn on. So it only takes a couple seconds to switch. If you want to do that, you just unplug the motor, turn off the hand grip, plug the motor back in, turn on the wheel, and they're paired up that way. So it only takes a couple seconds. I think you might need to recalibrate. But anyway, so yeah, that's the shoulder rig setup. So I'll finish this video just by giving a kind of a micro review of this camera in 2022. It's a great camera. If you can pick one up used, with all of the necessary accessories, so like the top handle, the side grip, battery charger, and like hopefully like 2 batteries, If you can pick it up used for like, you know, sub $3,000, I think it's a fantastic value. It has a very comparable image to like the S1H or the BS1H from Panasonic, but this has neutral density filters. It has built-in XLR inputs, which I know you can get the adapter for those other cameras, but this has it built in. This has, in the case versus the S1H, this has SDI and HDMI outputs, while also having a dedicated monitor output. So you have a lot of options that way. It's a more fully featured like production camera that can sort of, you know, shoot the whole gamut of things from cinema to live streams to corporate video, you know, you name it, it can do a documentary. But some of the problems with this camera, and you know, there's no sugarcoating it. Like the screen is really, really bad. Having an EVF of some kind or a viewfinder loop of some kind is almost necessary, unless you want to go the route of completely eliminating this and just always having like a 5-inch monitor on it or something. You're going to need something to block out that light. The menu system on this camera is pretty atrocious. Once you get used to it, there are certain things that are a little bit intuitive, but there are some things that are kind of unforgivable. Coming from the Ursa Mini Pro, like I have, where to go into high frame rate, it's just a click of one button. And all of the necessary settings are retained, and you just go from 24p to 120. Again, in just one click of a button, and the only thing that changes is your field of view and resolution, because they go hand in hand. With this camera, it's like several menus to change your sensor mode, change your resolution, change your codec and bitrate, and then enable variable frame rate, and then change that frame rate to the level you want. It's several button presses, and it takes a while. And even if you want to do, like, there's a shortcut you can use to like save picture profiles, it saves everything, including white balance. So if you wanted to, you know, set things up ahead of time, you know, the day before a shoot or even the day of a shoot in the morning or whatever, that locks in your white balance. So even if you do that quick change, you'll still have to readjust white balance when you make that change. It's really clunky, and it works in certain situations because not everyone needs to do those settings quickly on the fly. But if you're like a sports videographer or documentary or something along those lines where you don't have time to say, all right, everyone hold up, just got to change a setting, it can get really hairy to need to make those changes quick. So those things aren't great. Really, the only other thing that I really don't like about this camera is the audio control. You'll see here, there's two knobs for adjusting your two channels, and then there's two switches, and those switches are for automatic versus manual levels, which that just feels like the wrong switch to have there. What I really want to have there are another set of switches that change it from internal microphones, which are located here in the front, that allow you to change your input source. So internal microphones, line level, mic level, and then mic level plus 48 volts. Because as it is right now, to change your sources and to activate phantom power, it's all in the menu. You know, again, for some shoots, that's not something you need to do on the fly. But it just seems silly to have these knobs here. Like, there's room on this camera. It is a really small camera, but there is room to have those additional switches if they would have just reoriented things a little bit. So my final thoughts are, like, this is a fantastic camera in 2022 if you can pick one up used for a good price. It ticks all of the boxes for like a solo operator, and with a couple of additions like I've made here, it is a real production workhorse. And with the addition of the Blackmagic recorder, I would say it's a proper cinema camera if you want it to be. So anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments.